Okay, if you wanted, this is kind of along the theme of a previous video I just did. If you wanted to make a great unhafted knife, this is smooth and fits the hand well. Got enough thickness to grab onto well. If I were to go ahead and turn this a little bit and sharpen the crap out of it along this edge, that'll be a great unhafted knife. Just a thought. A comment that a friend of mine that's like super smart, I know a guy that actually uses everything he makes. He's a live off the land, know everything about primitive living and all kind of guy. Very interesting. And he uses his stone tools. And the cool thing about that is a lot of people don't use their stone tools. Well, if you use them all and you make them for the purposes you need them for, it gives you a whole different perspective on the tools. Like, for instance, hafting. People who haft everything they make and use it are going to know much more about what it takes to have a good hafting than people that don't. Edge quality. If you're using the edges all the time, then you know what kind of edge is good for what kind of task and how to create it. And then in particular, resharpening. How many flint knappers resharpen their tools all the time because they are using them? And then the use life of tools. How many people are starting out with a big old scraper or chopper or something, and over time working it down and using it up and resharpening it, and at some point looking at it going, you know, this just ain't good for a chopper anymore. I'm going to make a thinner knife out of it, and using that, working it down and everything, and then at some point going, hey, you know, this is just really getting too small to be a decent knife anymore. You know, I think I'll make a projectile point out of it, etc. Isn't that a cool thought? I'm not saying I do it, but I think it's totally cool. Well, you know, so far, this is working out. Maybe boring you, but I think it's cute. I like it. I don't know why, but I just love working little nodules. I was bifacing a rock on video the other day. A super tough, big, mean, nasty nodule. And I got the thing more or less under control. And it had on the end a bevel-shaped cortex area. And this rock was a beast. I mean, it was just tough. And without thinking, I didn't isolate it, I didn't nibble at the side of that cortex area or whatever. I just decided to just hit on the end, and in addition to not doing anything to lessen the the shock of it. I was tired and I'd been talking a bunch and stuff. It was the end of a long day. And I just end snapped that sucker. And there were a number of factors involved, obviously, but I don't really think, as hard as I hit it, I couldn't have probably got the support enough. I mean, I really wailed on it. But part of the issue too was probably the bevel on it. The beveled angle on it translated into more downward force probably than I was thinking I was putting on it. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm throwing that outward and it's kind of going a little bit obliquely to sort of thin ahead of me. It's almost like notching. Not really, but. Okay, so I'm coming around the corner and these hinges, you know, I've just left them. Never be embarrassed about leaving your hinges. You can leave them for good if you want to on the points and make it look real and it's, you know, rare and exotic. But coming around the corner, when I get around the corner, then I'll just head back that way. I mean, I'm always tempted to leave that little knife, but that'd be silly. You know, well, I shouldn't have done that if I was going to take all the hinges off. All right. Can't walk and chew gum at the same time. One thing that's funny is, as you get better, there's a couple little hinges there, which this stymied me getting those. But I've got a little platform there, so I can hit at an oblique angle, and who knows what can happen. Stay gone. What was I going to say? Oh, about getting better. So many of the old tools, you know, they weren't, a lot of the old tools, they weren't particularly concerned about pretty, they were concerned about functional. And so they made them to work, and once they got them where they would work, that was it. In some cases. So we all, the nappers, a lot of us are, you know, we're interested in aesthetics and we're interested in getting quote unquote good, with good being interpreted as aesthetically pleasing to the eye. And as you get good, a lot of times your stuff starts looking less real. And then at some point, if you get real good, your stuff starts looking like fog work, but not good fog work, even though it ain't fog work. So at some point, you look like you're a bad fogger instead of a good percussion napper. There was no real point to that. I don't even know why I made that observation, but I think I'm getting hungry. My son is supposed to be headed this way. I'm holding off on lunch to see if in fact he does show up in time. This is kind of tedious, isn't it? Yes, I'm being careful because I'm on the tip. I'm just hitting straight down gently with support underneath. That hinged because I didn't look at what I was hitting into. And what I was hitting into was a little ridge, and I hit very lightly. And a lot of hinges are caused by just basically the flake dying where it is because it didn't have the energy to go further under the circumstances. And I wonder if I could do that. That's kind of risky. I got all of this along here. I never can see the screen. I got all of this along here. I got a little platform right there. It's a little lower than I would like, and it's not isolated, but oh well. I'm thinking about just hitting along there just to see what happens. Nothing. Platform failed. Cortex, that's why, that's why I don't like Cortex. Okay, so there's a hinge. You say, well, why did that hinge happen? The hinge happened because of the Cortex. The platform, it's hard to even build a platform that's strong enough on Cortex to where you can depend on it. Okay, so there's another little platform that's Cortex-y, so let's see if it does anything or not. And in theory, see, I can't hit straight on it, and it is Cortex-y. But in theory, it's high enough to undercut that mica, but I don't know if it's gonna. I would bet against it, but we'll see. That's the danger of trying to undercut and hitting back into it. The platform failed again because it still wasn't strong enough on that Cortex, and it made this hinge much worse. It went about where the hinge was and broke out. And I hit it hard enough to run the flake, but if your platform isn't strong enough to hold up as long as it should while that energy's building and make that thing go, then that causes a lot of failures. So you say, well, what are you going to do about that? Nothing. I'm coming back this way. And you're like, why are you doing that? Well, because the longer I leave it there ugly like that, the more I remind myself not to do that crap. I came back this way, and I'm going to shoot one down here, and that'll set me up for one. When I do that, it'll lower right here and set me up for one to undercut that more than likely. It's a theory anyway, right? Okay, so 2 hits there, and that cleaned up that side pretty well. Okay, so now you see what it did when I took that. It's right by there, and it's almost good for that. So now I'll hit it with the abrader and with the finer abrader. And in theory now I've got enough of the Cortex off where I can put my punch above that and hit, and it should be okay. We'll see. One of the things that you can only learn through experience is when to say to yourself, well, you know what, I've got a pretty good situation here on this particular setup or platform, and I'm going to go for the gusto. A lot of thickness in here. My boring, y'all. Always feel free to turn off my videos. I know you do anyway. Also, always feel free to set my videos, go in the settings down at the bottom and change it to where it goes at 1 1/4 or 1 1/2 times my normal speed to make me sound like I inhaled helium and I'm talking fast. I'm a lot funnier that way. Sometimes I watch my stuff that way when I always try and watch my stuff before I post it just to see how ignorant I was. Because when you're videoing and you're trying to nap at the same time, sometimes you just say crap and then later you watch your video and you say, oh, what the heck was I thinking when I said that? Be like, I know better than to talk about people's mama like that. But anyway, it happens. This is I call this my kidney bean knife. It's a point type I've been trying to get established for a long time. So far, the typologists have stifled my efforts, but I figure a write-in campaign by you, the viewers, could help me tremendously. How much time have I spent? Okay, I'll be right back.